two, one.
Hello and happy Sunday morning. This is the last Sunday before the NFL draft. In fact, at this time next week, the draft will be over. The draft begins on Thursday. So, wrapping up some pre draft discussions and draft prep, going to be looking at the wide receiver position. But first, a couple of notable news items. A lot of fun in Arizona lately. Jacoby Brissett did not show up for OTAs. Then, in turn, their general manager said that they are not naming a QB1, that'll be a process they figure out in August. But Brissett hoping for an extension and a big raise. And that's because, he was their starter to end last year. They got rid of Kyler Murray. They brought in Gardner Minshew. So it seems like it's him or Minshew. We'll see what happens in the draft, but they're not likely to get Fernando Mendoza unless they make some kind of a big move up to one and the Raiders decide to slide back. Not likely to take a quarterback at pick number 3 either. So what exactly is going on here? Maybe a little bit of a game of chicken. Maybe they believe there are other quarterbacks out there. If it's not going to work with Brissett, notably Jimmy Garoppolo still remains unsigned, and he is somebody that their new head coach, Mike LaFleur, had been interested in possibly bringing in. Maybe there are other options still out there for them. Maybe they end up taking a Ty Simpson at the end of a first round and playing the YOLO game. But it'll be interesting to see how this kind of contract dispute and this game of chicken works out. Kind of things that happen in April when you've not been a great team that just are a little bit of a bummer. Another big move that happened yesterday, the New York Giants shipped off a defensive tackle, Dexter Lawrence. He was sent to the Cincinnati Bengals. Lawrence has been upset and had asked to be traded, but they had said they weren't going to move on him. They end up making the move, and it nets them back for the time being at least the number 10 overall pick, a package of picks, no players, but that puts the Giants with a pick number 5 and pick number 10. Some people thinking they are going to go grab an elite defensive prospect up at the top and also possibly a wide receiver to pair with Malik Nabers to give Jackson Dart a duo of receivers to have as top targets. So that seems like a good place to start today, because as we continue our discussion of draft prospects, we are kind of up to the area where it is time to start talking about wide receivers. And this is probably the position of best strength in the draft. There are a lot of options. There are a lot of depth. This is the place where we're going to probably have the most draft value, draft prospects. In fact, as we close here, I will give you a look at where I'm sitting on my current Superflex top 12. And as we've looked at some other positions, there are not a ton of great value beyond maybe a top guy or two in a lot of those positions. Wide receiver, a little bit different. In fact, wide receiver, it might be a place where there's a bit of a struggle at the top. When it first started out, Carnell Tate was number 1 for most people. I've seen a late stretch where some guys think Mekhi Lemon. I'm kind of torn. Lemon and Tate, it feels like a 1A, 1B. Lemon, the big receiver out of USC, supposedly didn't have the greatest interviews at the combine, but talent-wise, a lot of people interested in him. Carnell Tate, another out of the Ohio State system. JSN came out of there. We've seen quite a few guys come out of that system in recent years that have done very well. So you can kind of understand ESPN even going so far as throwing Jordan Tyson, the Arizona State prospect, kind of in there, up in that same level too. So the real thing seems to be that there are a few different options at wide receiver, especially at the top. All three of those guys I would expect to go in a first round. I think all three of them are guys that you're going to be taking kind of at or near the top of your rookie draft as well. But there's also another second set of three guys that I have that are kind of right behind there that you see in the rankings: Casey Concepcion, Denzel Boston, and Omar Cooper. Different sites have them in different spots. Boston, the big receiver out of Washington. Omar Cooper Jr. Was the top target out of Indiana, the national champions there. And then Concepcion was the top target from Texas A&M. And those guys also, a lot of them, a good chance to go in the first round. If you've seen some of the mock drafts, there are, between 4 and 7 receivers going in that first round. I think it would be safe to say we probably could see about 6. And I think those guys kind of separated themselves in 2 different tiers as the top 6 and really as the strength, as I mentioned, of this draft. So what about beyond that? Well, there's another group of guys beyond that that I think will be key players in rookie drafts, especially as you get into the second and third round. And we're going to see a little bit of shifting depending on where they land. Players like Elijah Surratt, Chris Brazil, Chris Bell, Jeremy Bernard, Zachariah Bryant, Antonio Williams, Malachi Fields, Ted Hurst. People have them kind of in different slots, but filling out spaces, kind of rounding out the top 12 or 13 at the position. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those guys, based on landing spots and where we see other things, end up being in the top 25 picks for dynasty drafts. I have a lot of receivers if I go all the way down to 25, simply because we really don't know running back, tight end, exactly where they're going to land, how we're going to feel about that. And quarterback seems to be an even bigger question beyond Mendoza. So let's talk about where we're sitting for Superflex top 25 for the moment. I'm just going to give you my top 12, which is approximately the first round as we sit right now. And even this, I think, could be fungible. I think the top won't really change. Jeremiah Love, the best of the running backs, and some people say the best player in the draft. I have it at number 1. Fernando Mendoza, the only real lock at quarterback, I have at number 2. I don't think that really changes. Then for me, I have the top 3 receivers going next, and it's kind of going to be based a little bit on where they land and how you feel about them. But as I mentioned, Mekhi Lemon, Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson, people have strong feelings. I think that's really kind of your top 5, with Kenyon Sadiq kind of a top 6. Sadiq, the top tight end prospect, could end up going pretty decently high in the first round too. Beyond that, things get a little more hazy for me right now. I have the next set of 3 receivers, Denzel Boston, Omar Cooper, Casey Concepcion, kind of in that 7, 8, 9 range. And then I have a couple running backs, Jadarian Price and Mike Washington, around tight end 2 for me, Eli Stowers. Stowers, a guy that has taken quite a few top 30 visits, some interesting locations, could be a player that goes a little higher than maybe we thought. A guy they think a lot of teams think has some very good receiving upside. That could be a great addition to a lineup. And then running backs, always a position of need. Price, Washington, right now, the guys I think that are kind of running 2, 3. But running back, as I mentioned last week, a place where you could see the most kind of shifting in the draft. I kind of have Emmett Johnson right there along with Washington. So I think we end up with a couple of running backs that will be up among the top 12 picks, maybe a couple of tight ends, only 1 quarterback. And really, as I go through, it's hard to feel great about having more than 2 quarterbacks in the top 25 in general right now, just kind of based on how we're getting a feel for the position and what we think that value is going to be, especially in year 1, but even maybe going forward. So that was a little bit of a look at the wide receiver position. should be an interesting draft. I'm looking forward to the NFL draft next week. I will be back next Sunday breaking down where everybody landed and where I have my final ranks as we turn the page and start heading towards rookie drafts. I know I have my first rookie draft has been scheduled for May 1st, so literally less than 2 weeks away, and we will see how that all shakes out. But until then, hope you guys have a wonderful weekend and hope you enjoy the NFL draft.